In an age where everyone is copying everyone else, from how we think, shop, invest, and even live, are you absolutely sure that you're not unconsciously copying foolish people? And here's the scary part. When you imitate foolish behavior, you slowly become one of them without even realizing it. Carlo Cipolla, an Italian economic historian, warned us about this back in 1976. He made a shocking claim. Stupidity is the most dangerous force in any society. Not because it's evil, not because it's clever, but because it's unpredictable, unstoppable, and completely impossible to reason with. So how do you know whether you've been unknowingly copying stupidity every single day? And how do you identify and avoid the people Cipolla called the silent but most destructive threat on the planet? The 5 timeless laws in this book will jolt you awake and make you see the world and yourself in a completely different way. Law 1. You always underestimate the number of stupid people. Carlo Cipolla begins with the rule that sounds shocking at first, but the moment you observe real life even a little, you'll realize it's frighteningly true. He says that in any group of people, a classroom, a company, even an entire nation, the number of stupid individuals is always higher than you think. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how educated you are, or how much life experience you have. You will always underestimate their proportion. He doesn't give a specific number. He doesn't say it's 10%, 20%, or 50%. He simply says it's more than you think. Always. And here's the scary part. Stupidity doesn't discriminate by education, social class, income, or status. You can find stupid people in leadership teams, boardrooms, universities, major corporations, or standing right next to you on the street. It's like gravity. It exists everywhere, affects everyone, and there's nothing you can do to avoid it. If you think you're immune to underestimating the number of stupid people, just remember the last time you witnessed a decision that made you ask, how could anyone possibly do something that foolish? Maybe it was an employee pressing the wrong button and shutting down an entire system. Or maybe it was a driver stopping in the middle of a highway just to take a photo. Or maybe it was someone panic selling their investments at the bottom, then rushing back in at the top just because everyone else was doing it. Cipolla points out that what makes the first law so dangerous isn't simply that stupid people are numerous, but that human beings are naturally inclined to believe there are fewer of them than there really are. We like to think society runs on rationality. We believe our workplace is filled with people who think clearly. We trust that the financial system is governed by brilliant minds. We assume most people get it. And that is the first and most common mistake. You never estimate the proportion of stupid people correctly. Because every time you think, this is the elite, they can't possibly be stupid, someone among them will make a decision that leaves you speechless for 5 seconds. Cipolla wants us to accept this as a law of nature. The more confident you are in your judgment of people, the more likely you're underestimating the stupidity around you. It's like walking into a dark room. You assume there's just a table and a few chairs. But when you turn on the light, you find a broken cabinet, an old bicycle, and a creepy statue whose eyes seem to follow you. Stupidity works the same way. It lurks in corners you never imagined. Cipolla didn't write the first law to insult anyone. He wrote it as a warning. Because if you don't recognize how many of them there are, you become even more vulnerable to the damage caused by their irrational actions. They don't need to intend harm. Sometimes one thoughtless decision can create more destruction than the deliberate actions of a malicious person. And that's the starting point for understanding the remaining 4 laws. To survive and succeed in life, you must first accept the truth that you're living in a world with far more stupid people than you think. Always.
Law 2. Stupidity is independent of education or status. Carlo Cipolla argues that if you still believe stupid people only exist among the uneducated, the underprivileged, or the ignorant, then you've just made yourself a living example of Law 2. He firmly asserts that stupidity is evenly distributed across all social classes. It doesn't care which school you attended, how much you earn, or how long your job title is on a business card. It exists in Silicon Valley, Washington, D.C., major corporations, and even in places considered the pinnacle of human intellect. This truth makes many people uncomfortable because we tend to assume that education correlates with common sense. But Cipolla proves there's no evidence that highly educated individuals are any less stupid than the rest of humanity. He tells stories of university professors considered intellectual elites, yet many completely lack practical decision-making skills. Math geniuses who can't manage personal finances. Renowned scholars who fall for investment scams so obvious that a high school student could spot them. Not because they lack knowledge, but because stupidity is a behavior, not a level of education. If you live in the US, you've probably seen news that leaves you baffled. A top CEO approving a multi-million-dollar project without even reading the risk report. Master's degree holders investing all their savings in a Ponzi scheme just because a successful friend recommended it. Powerful figures making impulsive, emotional decisions on live television that shock society. This isn't an exception, it's the rule. Because stupidity, according to Cipolla, isn't a lack of knowledge, it's the ability to harm others and yourself without any gain. A Harvard graduate can still make a foolish choice in a panic. A tech engineer earning $300,000 a year can drive the wrong way down a one-way street because of a GPS error. A seasoned politician can sign legislation that costs billions simply out of a temporary emotional impulse. Cipolla wants us to understand this. Stupidity doesn't diminish as education increases. It just takes different forms. The less educated might cause small problems, but the powerful and knowledgeable have the potential for far greater consequences. A retail clerk might ruin a single deal. A high-ranking official can damage an entire economy. And that's why Law 2 matters so much. You can't rely on degrees, income, job titles, or reputation to predict someone's level of stupidity. You can't look at a person in a suit, driving a luxury car, speaking fluently and assume they'll make smart decisions. Nor can you glance at someone who looks ordinary and underestimate their practical judgment. Cipolla advises us to observe behavior, because behavior is the truth. A leader at the top of a major organization can still do meaningless, reckless things. Someone without a college degree might have real-world instincts sharper than any expert. Law 2, in the end, serves as a gentle yet powerful warning. Don't be fooled by education or status. Stupidity is everywhere, and sometimes it comes in the finest suit. Law 3. Stupid people cause harm to others without gaining anything for themselves. Carlo Cipolla argues that if you had to pick the clearest sign of stupidity, Law 3 is the unmistakable mirror. According to him, a stupid person is someone who harms others while gaining nothing themselves, sometimes even suffering a loss. It sounds illogical, but you'll see it everywhere in daily life. Imagine you're driving on an American highway. Everything is fine until a car suddenly cuts you off at a speed that makes no sense. Not to pass, not to turn, no reasonable reason at all. That action is dangerous for you and dangerous for them. This is stupidity by Cipolla's definition. Or consider the workplace. Some people are willing to sabotage a colleague's project out of jealousy, even though the result is failure for the whole team, including themselves. Not because they gain anything from the project failing, but because they cannot see the bigger picture. Cipolla notes that these people aren't seeking benefit. They act just to act, and the consequences always far exceed their intentions. What makes Law 3 so terrifying is this. A stupid person doesn't need a motive. They don't need a reason to cause harm. They don't need a goal to destroy. They just do it. Look at American society and you'll see countless examples. People spreading fake news that confuses the community while gaining nothing beyond a few moments of satisfaction. Vandals destroying public property, then getting arrested, losing their jobs, and paying fines, suffering entirely for no gain. In all these cases, the common denominator is clear. Benefit equals zero. Damage equals high. Cipolla warns that this group is more dangerous than any other, even more dangerous than malicious people. Because a malicious person at least has a clear goal, a motive, and predictable behavior. A stupid person, by contrast, acts blindly, irrationally, and unpredictably. You can't know what they'll ruin next because even they don't know. Cipolla compares a stupid person to an unpredictable whirlwind. You can't negotiate, understand, or train them to become less stupid. The only thing you can do is keep your distance. From Cipolla's perspective, Law 3 is more than a description, it's a warning. In every organization, family, and community, there are always people capable of dragging every achievement down with a single thoughtless act. And if you don't recognize them early, you'll pay the price alongside them. At the end of the chapter, Cipolla offers an observation that's both humorous and bitter. A stupid person is an unconscious ally of chaos. They don't need a reason to destroy. Destruction is merely a side effect of their existence. So Law 3 serves as a sharp reminder. The most dangerous person isn't the one who wants to harm you, it's the one who can harm you without any reason at all.
The 4 types of people: the intelligent, the helpless, the bandit, and the stupid. Carlo Cipolla didn't stop at simply pointing out the presence of stupidity. He created a sharp, insightful model that divides humanity into 4 groups, not by status, not by education, but by how each person creates or destroys value for themselves and others. This isn't a moral ranking. It's a map that helps you understand human motivation, so you know who to get close to and who to steer clear of. Cipolla's model is built on 2 axes. Vertical axis, the benefit or harm an individual creates for themselves. Horizontal axis, the benefit or harm an individual causes to others. When you plot people on these axes, 4 groups emerge. Familiar faces you encounter every day in America, in offices, families, traffic, politics, and especially online. 1. The intelligent. This is the group Cipolla considers rare but immensely valuable to society. The intelligent create benefits for themselves while also benefiting others. They don't have to be geniuses or wealthy. Sometimes it's a small business owner who treats people well, an engineer who does their job properly, or an investor who prioritizes long-term strategy over showy gains. In the US, you'll find them everywhere, though they aren't always obvious. Someone willing to share knowledge, a doctor who takes time to explain so patients understand, or an entrepreneur producing quality products without exploiting customers. You feel their presence through the atmosphere they bring, calm, clarity, and the sense that you become better simply by being around them. Cipolla sees them as the most positive energy upon which society depends. 2. The helpless or the naive. In Cipolla's model, naive is not negative. It describes people who benefit others but harm themselves. These are the people who say yes to everyone, help wherever they can, and end up bearing the consequences alone. In America, you see them across social classes. Employees working overtime without pay thinking they'll earn respect, relatives bailing out family members only to fall into financial trouble, or kind-hearted people being taken advantage of. Cipolla doesn't look down on this group. Instead, he sees them as society's noble victims. But he warns, naive kindness is easily exploited by the bandits and the stupid. 3. The bandit. This group creates benefits for themselves by harming others. If you've worked in a US company, you've surely encountered them. Someone taking credit for your work, lying to boost sales, chasing short-term gains at the expense of colleagues or clients. On a larger scale, they can be corporations exploiting loopholes, banks charging unreasonable fees, or online scams. But here's why bandits are less dangerous than the stupid. You can predict their motives. They act for gain, so you can be cautious, negotiate, or avoid them. Cipolla emphasizes, bandits can cause harm, but they are logical. 4. And here lies the central group in Cipolla's theory. Stupid people harm others without gaining anything for themselves, sometimes even harming themselves. If you've ever seen someone ruin a meeting because of a sudden impulse or share false information online and make themselves a laughingstock, you've encountered them. The most dangerous thing about the stupid, Cipolla says, is their unpredictability. Bandits harm when there's gain. The stupid destroy, simply because they can. In every American organization, from businesses to schools to government, just one stupid person in the wrong position can cause collapse. They increase fatigue, lower productivity, and destroy what others have worked hard to build. What does Cipolla want us to understand? Not to ridicule humanity, not to laugh at society's foolishness, but to recognize people correctly, position yourself wisely, and protect your personal resources. He concludes with both irony and insight. The greatest destructive force in the universe is not the malicious person, it is the stupid person, because they have no idea what they are doing. This part of the book teaches that success, happiness, and safety in life don't depend solely on your skills or knowledge. They also depend on which group you choose to stand near and which group you keep at a distance.
Law 4. Stupid people are more dangerous than the evil. Cipolla argues that in every society, people spend too much time guarding against evil, while failing to recognize that the real threat is stupidity. Because the evil, though destructive, still act based on their own self-interest. That makes them predictable. The stupid, however, are different. They cause damage without reason, without purpose, and without end. They are the lose-lose type, yet in the chaos they create, you are always the one most affected. Cipolla offers a chilling perspective. The evil may be an opponent, but the stupid are a hazard. Imagine a typical American company, people working hard, meeting deadlines, creating value. An evil person in that environment might be a colleague competing unfairly, or a boss trying to take credit. They're unpleasant, but you can anticipate their moves. You know their goal, they want personal gain, so you can defend yourself, negotiate, or avoid them. A stupid person in the same company, however, is like a bomb without a timer. They might send the wrong email to a key client, ruin a project because of a misunderstanding, or make an irrational decision that forces the entire team to start over. And the scariest part is, no one knows what they're thinking. Not because they are malicious, but simply because they don't understand the consequences of their actions. Cipolla calls this illogical risk, a kind of risk that no system can handle, because it is unpredictable, uncontrollable, and unfixable by rules or regulations. Examples in everyday American life are easy to spot. A driver causing traffic simply because they refuse to use a turn signal. Someone cutting in line at the airport and getting angry at the staff. Sharing false news on Facebook, spreading panic without gaining anything themselves. In politics, business, or community life, stupid people consistently generate waves of chaos beyond what you can imagine. Cipolla points out that it's precisely because the stupid don't follow rules that they become a silent but powerful threat. The evil, no matter how bad, still operate within the logic of self-interest, making them easier to read. And this is the lesson Cipolla wants everyone to understand. You can negotiate with the evil. You can fight the evil. But there is nothing you can do about the stupid, except stay away from them. This statement isn't meant to demean people. It's a reminder that your life, career, finances, happiness can be ruined not by schemers, but by those who act thoughtlessly yet with relentless force in their thoughtlessness. Law 5. The intelligent always underestimate the destructive power of the stupid. Carlo Cipolla states a painful truth. Intelligent, educated, and experienced people often underestimate the destructive power of the stupid, not because they lack observation skills, but because they deceive themselves with the false belief that everyone acts with at least minimal logic. This is the tragedy of modern society, where the naivete of the capable becomes fuel for the chaos created by the stupid. According to Cipolla, intelligent people often assume that simply explaining something clearly will make others understand. Provide the data and evidence, and people will agree. Show them the consequences, and they will stop. But Cipolla delivers a chilling rebuttal. The stupid cannot understand because they cannot understand. And it is precisely this helplessness that makes them far more dangerous than the intelligent can ever predict. Look at everyday life in the US, and you'll see this happening constantly. A financial expert spends hours explaining credit card risks, yet his friends still swipe for a 4K TV while their accounts are overdrawn. A doctor warns patients about unhealthy lifestyles, but the patients trust false health tips online over professional advice. A diligent employee tries to improve workflow, but a single person who refuses to cooperate, misunderstands instructions, or makes a mistake because "I thought this was right" can cause the entire team to suffer. In every case, one thing is common. The intelligent always assume the stupid will behave more rationally than they actually do. Cipolla calls this the deadly mistake, because underestimating a single stupid person, even once, can open the door to irreparable damage. It's like an American business owner accounting. He assumed a new employee, though a bit slow, wouldn't cause too much trouble because everything was carefully instructed. Yet within a month, the employee signed the wrong contract, sent incorrect quotes, lost a major client, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damages. Not because he was malicious, not because he intended harm, simply because he didn't know what he was doing. And the intelligent, experienced owner had seriously underestimated the destructive potential of a person like that. Cipolla emphasizes that this is where the intelligent often fail. They believe their intellect is sufficient to manage, control, or correct the damage caused by the stupid. But this is an illusion. The stupid do not follow predictable behavior, have no clear motive to anticipate, and have no limit to the chaos they can cause. Cipolla concludes coldly, "It is not intelligence that saves you. It is avoiding the stupid." This is a warning that many smart people need to hear. You can succeed in competing against the evil, but you can fail disastrously when facing a stupid person, simply because you trust reason in a world that doesn't operate by reason. Understanding Law 5 is the final step to grasp Cipolla's full message. Stupidity is not a personal problem, it is a social force capable of destroying entire systems if we misjudge its power. When you close the basic laws of human stupidity, a harsh truth becomes clear. There is no failed investment that costs more than the time, trust, and money you pour into stupid people. Because stupidity doesn't just harm others, it drags you down without you even realizing it. And before you know it, you start becoming a distorted version of yourself simply by standing too close to those who run their lives on chaos. Carlo Cipolla wrote this book as a map and a warning. Be careful about who you allow into your sphere of influence. After all, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if even one of those 5 is a stupid person, sometimes just one, the price you pay could be your entire future. If you want to go deeper and equip yourself with a survival radar, a system to detect invisible danger, and a sharp mindset to avoid being sucked into the chaos of the stupid, read The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity. I've left the link to purchase the book in the description below. This is a book that helps you safeguard your intellect and your life. Don't let the stupidity of others become the trap that destroys you.